Hey everybody, welcome back to Birds of a Feather. My name is Alan the Unraveler, and as you see next to me, somebody else that is not Dustin the Pursuer. Dustin is not here today. So Elliot, my friend Elliot Christopherson, is filling in for Dustin, and it's great to have him on Birds of a Feather. Elliot and I also have very similar types of backgrounds and stories and how he escaped and things like that from Christianity. So this is going to be a fun journey with Elliot's talking about on his journey and specifically right now. Elliot and I behind the scenes have been talking about faith, how interesting of a topic that has been for us, and so we're going to talk about that here on the show live, and give you all a chance to chime in and give us your thoughts. But Elliot, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Give us just a little bit of a background, and because we're going to be doing this for a few weeks, and we'll get plenty of time to talk about faith. Take whatever time you need to make sure that people get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Elliot Christopherson. I've been an atheist I'll just jump right in. I've been an atheist for about 7 years now. Before that period, I was a Christian up to age 35. Um, so Baptist, fundamentalist, conservative, believe that the Bible was the literal, inspired, perfect Word of God. And in about 2018, I had to go through a period of self-reflection and had a lot of doubts and decided that I would finally determine whether if I was right or not. Christianity makes a lot of very serious claims that have immense implications in the real world and in the afterlife. And I've realized that if I was going to believe things that were so serious and had such extreme implications, such as an eternal hell, then the burden was on me to determine conclusively whether I was right or not. Because going around telling strangers that they're going to burn in hell, be eternally tortured for not believing the story of the Bible, and believing that many, many people that I know, including billions that have lived and are currently alive on Earth, that this is their future, this is their fate. You got to make damn sure that it's actually true. So I went on a period of self-reflection and research, and eventually the doubts won. And I realized very quickly that the arguments for atheism or against Christianity versus the arguments for Christianity or for the existence of God, only one side had the arguments, and the Christian side fell apart almost immediately. And it's worth noting and reflecting on that I had, for 35 years, had been this Christian who had been homeschooled with Christian curriculum, had attended a private Christian high school, had gone through a youth group and learned a lot of proofs for the Bible in that. And then I went on to Bible college. And in all that time, I had never been introduced to or confronted with or educated on the actual arguments and evidence against the Christian position from the outside. It was all very cookie cutter, well packaged sound bites about how to defend the Christian faith and how we know that we are correct. And getting outside of that bubble, and it didn't take more than 5 minutes of using Google to get me to very basic arguments and evidence against Christianity. And for some reason, I had never been presented with any of these while I was a Christian, while I was studying the Bible. That's very frustrating. The fact that you can go so long and so deep into a religion and never be confronted with the actual reasons why it's incorrect. So to make a long story short, I was forced to accept the fact that I was wrong. And that's not an easy thing to do. And it caused a lot of trauma in my life after leaving Christianity. I would say I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but obviously that's not the case because here we are. And I wish you, as a Christian, would stop being one. I think it would make the world a better place and make you a more truthful and reasonable person. And so in 2020, I published a book, How to Stop Being a Christian, where I included at the time, the majority of the arguments and the evidence that had gotten me out of Christianity. The book is about 270 pages. And since 2020, I've actually compiled stacks and stacks of notes of additional arguments and additional evidence that I've learned after that, where I could probably write an entirely new book with no old information. Like, that's how deep this goes. Because if you are to prove a religion wrong, such as Christianity, and you're going to actually test out its real world claims, you have to learn so much about the world. This touches on the process of falsifying Christianity. It touches on every field of science, every field of study, every field of scholarship that you can think of. Just to give a few: ancient archaeology, historical methods, historiography, cosmology, biology, psychology, textual criticism, pretty much anything that you can imagine that gets studied has some kind of connection to Christianity and the process of falsifying it. So you have to learn, like, an entirely, you have to get an entirely new education about the world just to boil this religion down to its components. And I've learned more after becoming an atheist 7 years ago about the world, and I've gained more knowledge than I did for my entire life, and that includes attending college. It's an amazing thing. It's a good journey to go on, and it makes you a more rational, reasonable person. So I'll just stop it there and throw it back to you.
No, that's great. Actually, that's I think that's a great subject matter. So let's just camp there for a minute, because one of the comments I get from people quite frequently, and I imagine you do it as well, is, why are you so concerned about, helping Christians get out of Christianity? We're not harming anyone. What is the deal? Why are you so concerned about it? Just go live your life as an atheist. Leave us alone to just, live our lives however we want to. You don't need to be interfering with us. Just let us do our thing. We're a peaceful religion, that kind of thing. I hear that a lot. And yet, here we are. We have reasons for why we are concerned and why we want to help people escape. Do you want to share a little bit about how you would respond to comments like that?
There's a lot of directions that we could take that, and we could talk about how Christianity or false belief systems do real world harm, but I won't even go there. I will just use at the most surface level. It's a question of fairness. Let's take American society. Everywhere you look, there's Christianity in some form, making itself known to the public consciousness, pushing itself on the public in some way. Just go to any town let's take the Midwest, for example. It's sort of the Bible Belt, but not deep into it. Just take a medium-sized city or town in the Midwest and just drive around, and you're going to find churches on not every corner, but almost every street is going to have some kind of a church, some kind of denomination. Like, they have set up their clubhouse, and they're trying to attract people and bring them in. Then turn on the radio. You've got Christian radio, so many different channels. I've got one out here that covers, I don't know if it covers the whole nation or just the Midwest, but it's called Bot Radio Network. And it runs all day long. And like, so many people I know just camp out with that channel tuned in. Nothing but Bible teaching and Christian propaganda. Then there's materials that's published. There's so many newsletters, so many magazines that are Christian oriented or Christian science oriented. Then there's evangelism. I mean, people come and literally knock on your door trying to get you to convert or bring you to church. Like, who else does that? There's only one other person that does, or type of person that does that, and it's a door-to-door salesman. That's nuts. College professors don't knock on your door and try to indoctrinate you. Atheists don't knock on your door and try to talk you out of your religion. It's religious people trying to evangelize you. Then there's cable TV. How many Christian channels are on cable TV? How many channels of other religions are on cable TV? Like, religion is everywhere. And if you pick a random person out of a hat from the American population, you ask them, do you believe in God? there's what, like a 75 to 80% chance, I'm just estimating here, that they're going to say yes, they believe in God, and probably the same percent chance that they're going to be a Christian. Like, it's everywhere. It's a question of fairness. Like, us as ex-Christians, now ex-Christians are a subset of atheists, but let's just take ex-Christians. This is such a small minority. Don't you think we should have a little bit of say, just a little bit of media, a little bit of attention? It's we have a right to get our voices heard just as much as anybody else. It's a question of fairness. So to say, why are you wasting your time, or why do you do this, or why do you care so much? Like, are you serious? Throw the question right back at them. Why do you care so much? Why are you wasting your time? Like, you have a story you're trying to sell everyone on earth, and I'm just giving a counter argument to it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you didn't even touch on all the reasons we might be concerned about the religion itself and how it causes damage.
Of which there are many. Unfortunately, the Christians will like to fight you on that, about how, well, they will counter the Crusades or the Inquisition with, like, how atheists in communist countries have killed millions of people. Don't even have to talk about that either. How about what it's actually doing today?
Right.
But I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
It is. And speaking of that, this would just be a great place to just make this simple comment that one of the things I hear all the time is, oh, atheism is a religion too. And they try to piggyback all the atrocities that take place with people who happen to be atheists, but, different worldviews, like communism, for example. And they say, oh, it's atheism. Atheism is a religion. Well, atheism is not a religion any more than theism is a religion. Theism isn't a religion. You have a religion that is based on your theism, but there's no religion called theism. That's ridiculous. So it's the same thing. There's no atheist religion. That's nonsense. In fact, there's less of a chance of an atheist religion than there is of a theist religion, because we're not making claims. Whereas you have a system of claims that you are making as a theist. So that in itself is one of my deep concerns, just because for me, coming out of Christianity, I've realized how much it blinded me from living in the real world, and missed out on so many things that I should have been learning and enjoying for the 42 years of my life that I was a Christian. And instead, all I was imbuing myself with is the Bible and God and Christianity. And like, I had my little bubble, and that's where I lived in this matrix of Christianity. And so all I fed my mind was God, 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 and the theology of God and all this. And when I say, all the things I could have experienced, set aside, like, the pleasures of the world that I had to suppress because I was a Christian, it's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about normal things, like just learning how this world works, going to school and actually paying attention in science class so I could actually understand what really brought the beings about the way they are today, and how we've evolved into humanity, and how, even things like abiogenesis, evolution, as I said, how energy works. Like, there's so many things that I could have learned and been far more intelligent about the world I live in. Instead, the attitude that was taught to me and the attitude I ended up having was, oh, they're just trying to deceive me and take me away from God. Don't pay attention to that garbage. Just focus on God. And so, you do what you had to get by, but you would just poo-poo it and not pay any attention. And that's sad. And so I see that happening in Christianity. And for me, as a personal thing, is I want to help people escape that mindset, the blindness that makes them live by this thing called faith that is nonsensical, and actually live by reality, live by reason, live by logic. So that to me is a big deal. So yeah, I mean, we could talk about atrocities all day, but that's not the long and short of it. That is a minuscule problem of Christianity, because all religions cause atrocities, but non-religions cause atrocities too. It's not really the key element. Although, anytime you can do away with one atrocity in the world, or one cause of atrocities in the world, that is certainly helpful. So, if we could get rid of religion, that would definitely minimize a large part of it. And that would be nice. but yeah, for me, I get very sad when I see my cousins and my nephews trapped in this mindset, in this mind virus, and they think that they're worshiping this God. And I don't know about you, um, Elliot, but sometimes when I think about the fact that I was a Christian and worshiped this God and praised him and like poured my heart out to him and talked to him and sang songs like everything I have is yours and I give my whole life to you and everything. And I think about it, I'm like, man, it's so odd to think about the fact that I actually worshiped and praised and admired and gave my life to a being that does not exist. It's weird, man. It's almost embarrassing, that I did that and fell for it. And I scratched my head about it. And I'm like, how did I fall for that? It's crazy. Anyway, I'll give you a chance to respond to some of the things I've said.
Yeah. First thing I'd say to people who claim atheism is a religion, what are my beliefs? If it's a religion, what do I believe? And that's not something that can be answered. They say, well, you believe there is no God. Okay, so what? Like I also don't believe that there is a Bigfoot. Can I build a religion off of not believing in Bigfoot? It's a ridiculous statement. And as far as the atrocities, I think one of the counters that Christians will come up with when we're doing a competition between who's done more harm is they'll point to perhaps atheism might lead to Christian persecution. There's this fascination that Christianity has, especially modern Christianity, with the idea that they're a persecuted minority essentially. And I would push back on that as strongly as possible, because if you're an American Christian or a European Christian, you're not persecuted. You're the one with the power. Maybe not so much in Europe, but with the rise of Christian nationalism and just the fact that every one of our politicians publicly affirms God in some way, God bless America, or something like that. You couldn't even win an election if ever on almost any level in any state if you publicly said that you're an atheist, you don't believe in God, or you're an ex-Christian. You're seen immediately with suspicion, disgust. In fact, they've done surveys studying like what's the most marginal. Well, what minority group does the general public have the lowest opinion of? And they've consistently found that, especially in America, atheists rank at the very bottom with sex offenders. You're not persecuted. You have a fantasy about being persecuted because you believe that martyrdom is the highest calling, and you believe that there is a long history of Christian persecution throughout world history. I got a copy of Fox's Book of Martyrs. I read it pretty early, probably my early teens. And because I was a Christian, I just bought everything that it said. Just assumed that it was true. Never did any kind of fact checking or like historiographical analysis of where did this book come from? How did they get the information? It today, if I read that, which I have, it sounds like Grimm's fairy tales or Aesop's fables. Like it's just claims of all these horrific things. And I'm sure that there was a lot of that, but Christians read these apocryphal tales as if like this is the highest ideal that we should aspire to, and they try to like project that onto their own situation in America, and they look for Christian persecution at every turn, with this fantasy that oh my God, the atheists are after us, or secularism is after us. It's just not the case. I've never seen Christian persecution anywhere. I mean, the closest I ever came is I had a coworker who demanded Sundays off so that he could, go to church. And our boss would sometimes purposefully try to schedule him on a Sunday because he didn't like the demand. That was the closest I've ever seen Christian persecution go. So I know that was a long tangent. What were you saying right before you turned it over to me? There was something I wanted to remark on.
About how it felt coming out of Christianity and thinking back about how we would worship this
Yes.
being that doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is very frustrating to me when I dialogue with Christians now. The fact that I went my entire life being so deeply immersed in the literature, whether some sort of Christian propaganda, whether it was just reading the Bible or reading an apologetics book or reading a magazine or listening to the radio. Like I'm going to church all the time. Like I was immersed in the Christian viewpoint, and I gave zero time to the other side. And when Christians today have doubts or they're questioning, like everybody goes through as a believer of whatever religion, eventually you're going to have some kind of doubts. It's just something that just gnaws at you a little bit, even if it's that light. It doesn't have to be an existential crisis. What they will do is they will run to their pastor most often, or they'll go to a trusted source like a parent or a friend, or somebody inside Christianity, and they will ask them, "Hey, how have you dealt with this?" or "What are the answers?" And they'll be directed to more Christian propaganda. I mean, we all know the books. If you're an average Christian, you've probably heard of C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, or Josh McDowell's Evidence That Demands a Verdict, or Frank Turek's I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, or forget his name, but the Case for Christ, Lee Strobel. And they'll be recommended that, and they'll read a little bit of it probably, because who gets through the entire book? These are not short books. And they're not fun to read. They're not fiction necessarily. So, it's not like I'm so deep into this book. Oh my God, this is amazing. They'll read a little bit of it, or they'll listen to their pastor, and they will then claim a victory over their doubts, even though they probably still have them a little bit, but it's enough to put a Band-Aid on it so they can move on with their life and forget about it. I've seen that happen every single time. And then when I talk to a Christian, like then their immediate response to finding out I'm an ex-Christian is to recommend the same material to me. I've already read it, so
right.
It doesn't help. Even
right.
when I was struggling with my doubts, my pastor gave me a copy of Josh McDowell's Evidence That Demands a Verdict, but I already read it about 10 years prior to that, and I wasn't solving these questions. So my frustration with myself that I didn't give the other side any time at all until I really cared, and I allowed myself the possibility to be wrong. My frustration is that if you have given, let's say you're 35, like I was, you've given 35 years to all the Christian propaganda. You need to take a time out. Don't compare. Don't listen to a debate where it gives equal attention to both sides, because then you're still getting 50% Christian propaganda. You need to take time out. You need to take a look at the evidence from the other side. Give it a day. Give it a week. Like, it's still not even going to compare to 35 years inside the story. Like, come on, you're not being fair, you're not being reasonable, you're not being rational, you're not being logical, you're not being any of the things you claim you are, because no one, if they're asked, hey, are you a rational person? No one is going to say no. Everyone thinks they're a rational person. Then be rational. Give a little bit of time exclusively to the other side. Hear what they're having to say. Like, I don't understand. Well, I guess I do understand. There's a lot at stake for them. This is an emotional issue, but you owe it to yourself to just hear them out for a day. Listen to one lecture from an ex-Christian. They're everywhere. You can find them. Just type them in on YouTube. You're going to get lots of it. There's a lot of people in the recent years, since the rise of the internet, that have fallen away, and they have a story. They have a reason. Like, listen to the reasons. There's ex-pastors such as yourself. I mean, you put a lot of time into this. You wrote an entire book. Give it a little bit of time. And that's the big challenge is how do you do that?
Dude, I totally agree. So much you said there was very wise. when I was a Christian, and I would have considered myself, pretty intellectual, very astute with theology, and um, read all of the apologists, and would have claimed that I understood the atheist and the agnostic arguments, and would have said that I had rebuttals for them. But in all honesty, all I ever read was the Christian propaganda, the apologist materials rebutting the atheists and the agnostics. So I assumed that I understood the arguments because I was getting them from Christians. Um, I didn't really have engagement with atheists or agnostics. I didn't dialogue with them. And if I did, it was very infrequent. It wasn't like I would do what you suggested, go and actually spend some time hearing from from the mouth of babes, or from the horse's mouth. I mean, what actually they were arguing. Um, so that makes a big difference, because now that I'm on this side, I very much see the Christians doing the same thing to me. I'm like, I'm not saying that. You think I'm saying that, but that's not what I'm saying. You're hearing that from your pastors or from these books or whatever, but you're not paying attention to what I'm telling you. And they don't want to hear the actual arguments. They don't actually want to hear what the problem is with faith. They think the problem with us is just we're just these immoral people. And they have this assumption that presuppositionalism is obviously the biggest one. And I was a presuppositionalist, that obviously without God, you can't even have a conversation. It's logical. You can't even think without borrowing from our world and from our God, and all this. And so they come in with this presupposition, and we don't have a chance to actually explain why that's a fallacy. So one of the reasons that happens, I think, it's almost, this journey almost parallels my journey into full preterism. Because I remember when I became a full preterist, and so I hope some full preterists are listening to this, because I want you to take this to heart. This is key, because I'm dealing with this with a lot of full preterists, and it frustrates me, because when you're a full preterist, you're dealing with the same stuff you're dealing with as an atheist, but you kind of stop as a full preterist, and then you put your fingers in yours, and it's bizarre, that you're not willing to go any further and just be challenged by an atheist. So I heard things from full preterist. Yeah.
Yeah. For the viewers, but also for myself primarily, could you explain the difference between dealing with like an average Christian who's not a full preterist versus trying to argue or debate someone who is a full preterist? Like, is there much of a difference?
Yes. So most full preterists, for example, would not believe in hell. I mean, I suppose there might be some, but it's kind of rare. Most of them have already abandoned that view, and recognize that the word in the Bible is Gehenna, and in the Old Testament, it's also a place, the Valley of Hinnom. So they see it as a place. So that's a major difference. The time statements and the audience relevance, they see that the coming of Christ has already happened, the second coming, and the judgment, the resurrection, and all that has already taken place at the destruction of Jerusalem. So they're not looking for some ultimate final judgment of eternal punishment or whatever. So when you talk to a full preterist, a lot of times you can't use, well, a lot of times, anytime, you can't use the ridiculousness of the always impending coming of Christ that people have been waiting for 2,000 years, which is absolutely absurd, but they see it as absurd too. So you don't have that argument. Obviously the rapture stuff, that's gone. We just apparently missed another rapture yesterday. At what point do you just kind of realize, I think we're just out of rapture stuff, man. Maybe we just need to move on with a new view after all these pictures. It's just, come on, people. Like,
what does a full preterist believe happens next, as far as a timeline of what God's going to do or what's going to happen to Christians?
Nothing. You just, when you die, you live forever with God. There's no more.
So Jesus is not ever going to come back and make a new earth?
No. There's nothing like that. It's just, this is it.
Okay.
And this is the best we're ever going to get.
Okay. But you do believe in an afterlife of not being on Earth.
Correct. Yeah, you do believe in afterlife. And now there are branches of full preterism called Israel only full preterists, that believe not only was everything fulfilled in the first century, all prophetic texts, but it was so fulfilled that it was fulfilled only for Israel because it was just Israel's story. And since then, doesn't apply to us. It's just Israel. So it was God's story from Genesis to Revelation just about this group. He did his thing. It's done, and it doesn't have any effect or bearing on us at all. And there may be some variances to that as well within that branch. As you imagine, all sects of Christianity tend to splinter very quickly.
Now, would a full preterist believe that Jesus fulfilled Old Testament prophecies?
Yeah, all the prophecies are fulfilled.
Okay, and would they also believe the Bible is perfect and inerrant?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so the only like substantial difference between an average Christian and a full preterist is that God's not coming back, and there's no hell.
God's not coming back. There's no hell, no rapture. Also, a lot of preterists would consider themselves covenant creationists. So the beginning of the book parallels the end of the book. So the ending is a covenant judgment. The beginning is a covenant beginning. So it's not actually describing the creation of the material universe. So you also have it's not a science debate over Genesis 1 to show the stupidity of trying to force Genesis 1 to match the scientific timeline of how things, actually logically came about. So that's not what that's about. It's the creation of a covenant. So it's metaphoric language to a full preterist, or at least the ones that are covenant creationists. So that also changes things. So you really have to limit it to just arguing the reality that faith is absurd, and their whole worldview is based on faith. And that's really what it comes down to. They'll still argue the evidence that the intelligent design argument. Couldn't think of it for a second. I'm supposed to be having a debate with Don Preston, hopefully sometime soon. I'm still waiting on him to get back to me. But we're supposed to be scheduling a debate, and he wants, he thinks that he can prove the existence of God using intelligent design. And I'm just like, okay, let's do this, because I really would like to see you do that.
Yeah. How does a full preterist deal with Revelation? Is that already, what do you accept that as a legitimate book of the Bible, and has that also been fulfilled? Obviously,
yeah, it's all legitimate, and it has been fulfilled. All of that is describing, the whole book is describing the destruction of Jerusalem.
Okay.
It's couched in metaphoric language, and actually, it's kind of, if you really take the time to look at it, it actually has a lot of richness to the view, because when you look at the language that's used of destruction throughout the book, of stars falling from the sky and sun turning, dark, and the moon turning to blood, and all this kind of stuff, and stars falling into the destroying the earth, and all this. If you parallel that with Old Testament prophecies that supposedly were fulfilled in their destruction of localized events, like when Babylon was destroyed, the prophecy is supposedly Isaiah 13, if I remember correctly. It uses pretty much the identical language that Revelation uses to describe the destruction of Babylon. So the preterists will say, hey, wait a second, why aren't we just understanding the language of Revelation the same way we would have understood the prophecies throughout the entire Bible? And so rather than see it as a universal cataclysmic event, they see it as local judgment, just like the Old Testament texts were. So that's the way that the full preterists would interpret the Bible overall. And in my mind, it's the most logical way to understand the Bible as it is right now, given to us. Clearly, I think all of it was retrofitted and everything, and they, whoever wrote the New Testament, made sure that it was fulfilled in 70. At least in my opinion, it looks like the story ends there. And then, of course, Constantine came around and saw an opportunity and was like, "Hey, we can do more with this." So here we are. But that being said, we have so much more to talk about, but our time is up. We're supposed to end 4 minutes ago. So, hey, it's too much fun, man. But you know what?
I mean, do you have time constraints? Does it even matter if we go another 5?
Oh, no, it doesn't matter if we go another 5. We can go another 5.
I know you want to touch on faith.
Yeah, just out of respect for our listeners, I always try to keep it to like 30 minutes because that's what they expect. So,
okay.
But I mean, we can. I'm sure we're going to do multiple episodes on faith. But I think this is a good topic to start with. Just challenging the. Oh, okay. So real quick, yeah, this is where I was going with. This is why I brought up full preterism. Um, so to my full preterist friends, I want to challenge you to think of this because maybe you had a similar experience like I had when I became a full preterist. Of course, I was the outcast from the mainstream Christianity. Of course, even the Presbyterian movement. I was a Presbyterian. I was even a partial preterist, and all that was accepted. That was great. And you become a full preterist, and you're like cut off at the legs. All of a sudden, you're a heretic, and they put you out.
Yeah.
A lot of them have to get divorced from their wives because their wives now think that they're sinners and heretics and all this. It's just, or husbands, as it may be, whichever. So it's almost a nightmare becoming a full preterist. It's really, really painful. And so I had to go through that, and then I had to go through that same garbage again as an atheist. It really sucks. But as a full preterist, when I became a full preterist, I remember pastors in the presbytery and the presbytery that I was a part of. The local, it was about 5-6 churches down in Florida there when I was a youth pastor. They all preached a series of sermons right after I left on full preterism, the evils of full preterism.
Wow.
And I remember very distinctly listening and making sure that everybody knew that I was a heretic and don't talk to me anymore and cut me off. And I was just like, really? It was crap. And so basically all of Southwest Florida, everybody that went to these churches that knew me were like told to cut me off. So anyway, they in preaching these sermons, they said we need to preach this. We need because this yeast has infected our churches, whatever. We want you to know what this theology is and why it's so evil. It's very important that you know. And then on the other side of their mouth, at another part of the sermon, they would say, don't read any of their garbage. It's just going to fill your mind with crap. Don't pay any attention to what they're writing. Don't read it. It's just bad for you. Focus on God's word and the material that that's healthy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, trust us, this is evil, but don't you dare read what they have to say, lest you get sucked in or something like that. And as a full preterist, you're frustrated with that because you're like, if they just, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? If what you have is the truth, then you have nothing to fear. If what we have is the truth, then you should want it because why are you what's the point of living a lie? That's just asinine. Why would you want to live a lie if you know it's a lie? That is a stupid way to live. That's a waste of your life. You'll live your whole life and never live a day of it if you do that. So as a full preterist, you would say this is just focus on truth. Pursue truth. Let truth lead where it goes. That's what you want more than anything. And if it comes back to where you are, great. But if you start with the presupposition that my view is right, you're never going to actually pursue truth. You're just going to be stuck in your own worldview, your own matrix. So to you full preterists that feel that and understand what I'm saying, hear me now. Hear this. I am telling you it's the same thing now. Here I am as an atheist, and I'm saying, listen to what I'm saying. Follow the truth where it leads. Engage me. Engage Elliot. Engage us and engage us. Read the material. Pay attention from the other perspective. Like Elliot said earlier in the show, don't just think you're right because maybe you are and maybe we're wrong. And that may be the case. But if you pursue the truth, let that be the dictator, not your presupposition that says I'm already right and I know I am and I don't debate with atheists. I know that you as a full preterist heard the same thing I did from non-full preterists. They would say to me, we don't debate full preterists. Literally heard that from my one of the pastors of the church that kicked me out. We don't debate full preterists. I was like, you don't debate full preterists, but you'll debate Catholics and you'll debate atheists and you'll debate Mormons and you'll debate Jehovah's Witnesses, but you don't debate.
Well, would they debate those other people? Because there's a huge resistance to having a debate of any kind.
I have seen them actually have debates with other religions, for sure.
Okay, so the same people were doing it, so it was hypocrisy.
Yes, they just wouldn't touch full preterism with the 10-foot pole, and I think they knew that something was up, and they didn't know how to deal with it, which is whatever. But that is very frustrating when you're a full preterist because you're like, really, you'll debate anything with two legs, but you won't debate us because you're afraid. And I'm saying now to full preterists that I'm challenging them to debate me and discuss, and they're saying, well, we don't need to debate you as an atheist. Really? Like that speaks of fear in my mind. That smells tremendously of fear that something's up, but you're afraid to lose whatever you have. And I get that. Ellie and I were talking about this yesterday. We get that. Like, I fully understand the cost of leaving your faith, especially if you're a pastor. I totally get it. It is painful. But I also can tell you that while it's painful for a few years, maybe 5 to 10 years of your life sucking, you can actually rebuild. And on the other side, it's so much freaking better than it was when you stayed in the matrix you were in. It really is. It really is better on the other side to live in truth. I find I'm happier. I find my life more freeing. Um, Even though, you're going to have this whole argument that there's no meaning to life and all this, fine. You make your own meaning. You do what you want with your life, though, but at least you're not trapped by a facade of something that's not actually going to ever happen. So that's my take on it. That's my challenge. And Elliot and I are going to be opening up the window for anybody that's willing to come and debate us. Not so much debate, but have a discussion with us. I should say it like that, because it's not going to be formal. But we want to open up the window because we want you to come in and just have this discussion and actually dialogue with real atheists, not what you think an atheist is going to say. Hear our responses, hear our comments, so that you can deal with them. And we'll deal with yours too. We'll converse, and that's what we want to do. So, as we lay out these shows and as we throw some things around, we hope that if you're out there and you're watching and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm a Christian and I want to have this discussion," we want you to too. We want you to let us know because we want to have you on the show. You can email me if you want to, Alan, ALAN, at unravelation.com. That's a great place to email me. You can also message either one of us, and we can set you up and have that dialogue because that's key. And we'll do it live on a time slot that's great for everybody. So that's something we want to open up to. But
or if they don't want to be live, we can just record it and publish it later. I mean, some people don't like going live because they're afraid that they can't edit it. Well, okay. Well, if you're if you are unsatisfied with your experience, or you thought you got ambushed and destroyed or something like that, well, then if you don't want it out there, fine. At least we had a conversation.
There you go. I think that's a legit statement. Yeah, I like that, Elliot. So take what we're saying. We just want you to open up your mind to the possibility that there might be something out there that you haven't considered yet because you've trapped yourself in a worldview and have never looked outside of it. So we just want to have a dialogue. That's all. Dialogue with real atheists, not a fake atheist through your funnel called apologetics. That's just wow.
Yeah, and we're not here to fight with you or make you look stupid. It's just a conversation. Like there's no like evil intent or bad motives here. I mean, you'll go and talk to a stranger and have a conversation about Jesus. What's the difference?
Yep, I agree, man. So I mean, we're not going to be able to broach the subject of faith today.
Right.
But we will. Next week, we'll start talking more about it. Assuming we don't go in a different direction. That's the beauty of this show, man. There's no plan. We just talk, and where it goes, it goes. We got so much to say. That's the thing, man. We've got so much to talk about. It's just so much. We could go in a million different directions, and all of it will be interesting. All of it will be fun. All of it will be educational, both for me and for others. I love having you on the show because I find you to be extremely intelligent. And I'm grateful that you decided to be a part of this with me. And I thanks for being on the show and helping us out. Your book, by the way,
I'm not extremely intelligent. It's that if you spend enough time, you'll always get there, type of thing. You might not have the answers, but even stupid people eventually get there if they try hard enough.
Well, that's probably true. That's probably true. Your book, How to Stop Being a Christian, is genuinely brilliant. If you are looking for a book that it appears to cover everything, Elliot's saying he's got now even more. I can't even fathom that. It's mind blowing. He's just got so much in this book. It's incredible. But he's a wordsmith. Each chapter is short, it's succinct, but it is very potent. So I encourage anybody that wants to grab it, go on Amazon and grab it. I'll put the
and plug your book as well. I know it's not been republished yet, but it's just as worthwhile if you have the endurance to just keep on plugging through it. It is a masterpiece in its own right.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, our books are similar, but also different. There's a lot of differences between them, but also similarities. So, encourage you to grab both of them. I'll put the links to them both in the info section there, so you can grab that.
Now, do you currently have your first version
Yeah,
on Amazon?
yeah. How to Kill God the
Okay.
Easy Way is still on Amazon, and it's for sale currently. And it's going to be a little while before Unravelation comes out, which is the second edition. For those who are wondering, I'm changing the title for a lot of reasons, but a lot of ex-Christians who have read it or Christians who have deconverted because of the book have said to me they love it and they want to give it to friends, but they can't because it's like such a weird title to hand to somebody.
Yeah.
I took that advice and I said, let me change the title so that you can actually give it to somebody. And so Unravelation and the subtitle is How Those of Faith Find Freedom. So
Yeah.
a
And
lot more positive.
just to contrast our two books, we both each took a different process or different method. Ellen's book is a system. It's a process that takes you down a certain path to the conclusion, and that's why it's so long. Mine is more like I guess my original intent was like a daily devotional, sort of like Christian devotionals, very short chapters, 1 point per chapter. You can read one chapter in probably 2 minutes. So we each are using a different method to get there.
Yep. I think that was a great way of describing it. Very, very good way of describing it. So yeah, you'll want to grab both of those. And honestly, the cool thing is different people are going to be affected by different types of books. So get them both and read through them. And if you have a friend that is struggling with these questions, or even as a Christian that you think is open minded to read something, you might be able to give them one or the other, or both, or whatever, depending on the
Yeah.
kind of friend they are. It is so. So I'll
And,
definitely
and
encourage.
if you're a Christian who's dealing with doubts, there is somewhere out there is that silver bullet that is going to work for you. It's like putting a puzzle together, and there's one piece left. And if you can find that puzzle piece, like, it will break it wide open. Um, just don't stop looking for it.
Right. And that maybe that's one of the reasons why I finally just finally leapt off the cliff and ended up as an atheist, is because my pursuit of truth was never ending. I never got to a point where I just said, "Oh, I got it all figured out now," and I just stopped. It just that was never the case for me. I started out as a fundamental dispensational, you know, Christian, and went from there through the whole gambit all the way to full preterism and then finally atheism. But that's because every step of the way it was like a new puzzle piece came in. I was like, oh, this is amazing. But there were still things to work on, and I still needed more truth. And so I just kept going and going and going. And a lot of people get to a spot and they just, for some reason, they just settle in. I don't know if it's exhaustion from always moving from system to system until you finally land on one that makes the most sense, and then you just say, I'm done, or you just don't want to go any further because you know where it's going to lead if you do. I don't know what the reasons are
Yeah.
for stop, but I
I,
couldn't
I
stop.
I do have a theory on why most people stay Christians even if they have serious doubts, and it's just that they don't have the time. A lot of them don't have the time. If you have a normal life that's like taken up almost 100% by raising a family or a career, like, you're going to do what everybody else does. You're gonna come home. If you get an extra hour of free time, you're gonna spend that watching TV or reading fiction or some kind of amusement, just to de-stress. And when those doubts come, and if they bother you enough, you're going to go for those easy answers, and you're just gonna default to you're gonna fall back on what you've already believed. 99.9999% of the time, like, that is what happens. You have to really care, and I would hope that if you're watching a video like this, you actually do care. Like, this is your life. This matters. Like, put some time into it. I know it's hard to find time, and you, it's up to you. I mean,
Yeah, no,
if
and
you're
that,
okay with where you're at and those unanswered doubts, fine, live your life. But what I what I would what I would say to a lot of to Christians out there, um, and this is really important. Like you said, you're offering them a better life. a life free from all this stuff. It's a I can't offer you a better life. It's a mixed bag. It will cause problems for you personally. It will change your life in ways maybe you don't want, but also change it in ways that you do want. My point here is that your life as a Christian, your daily life is going to be no different as an atheist, because you're not actually living your faith in a way that impacts it on a day-to-day level. Nobody takes God to the grocery store with them. Whether you're an atheist or a Christian, you're going to eat the same things, you're going to do the same activities, you're going to go to the same job. God doesn't actually matter to how you live. Prove me wrong.
One of the benefits that you will get, though, is, and I don't know if I can say all of them. I'd have to think through it because I'm just throwing this off the cuff off the cuff now. But a good majority of them, if not all of them, those besetting sins that we used to have, the ones that you're always fighting in your mind, those mind sins that you struggle with, and you're always convicted of it, and you're always turmoiling over that, and trying to get rid of these besetting sins. You won't have to worry about that anymore because they're no longer sins. And you're not going to feel like you have to fight these desires in your head and pretend like you're not allowed to think things that you want to think. You can think them, and there's no consequences to that now.
Yeah, and I would challenge Christians to explain to me how they're not already doing those sins.
Well, that's what I mean.
They'll break free of the guilt. Nothing's going to change. You're
right.
still going to do the same exact stuff you didn't like before that you thought was a sin.
That was the point.
You did it before, and you're going to do it after you leave Christianity.
Yes, that was the point.
Guilt won't be there. The
That's
guilt
it.
won't be there.
The guilt won't be there, nor will the constant tension that makes you feel like you have to stop. Now you can just fucking enjoy it, not be worried about it anymore. Like, it's just like, it's so sad how we've spent so many years resisting ridiculous things because we were taught they were sins and God was watching us. Oh my goodness. And we were convicted of it because we were convicting ourselves of something we didn't need to convict ourselves for. It's just absolutely crazy, man.
And those sins, honestly, let's be really honest here. They're not even a big deal.
No.
Like,
no,
nobody is like, oh, I need to deconvert from Christianity so I can go and do X, whatever that happens to be.
Right.
Like, nobody thinks like that. Nobody. Right. These are not a big deal.
Right. And there's some things that you'll actually be able to even do, not just thoughts, but things you now resist that you think are sins in action, and they're just not. And, whatever. And we're not going to get into all of them now. You can let your mind roam about what those are. But just there's so much freedom not being a Christian, being trapped by besetting sins and things you think are evil and that you're not allowed to venture into. And we'll have to talk about morality at some time too, Elliot. That's going to come up because I know that that's a big deal. Christians think, well, yeah, no wonder you guys just want to go eat babies all the time and just have sex with whoever you want to and blah, blah, blah. And, all these evil things that we do because clearly we just have no moral grounding. And that's just how we live. That's just what you've been told. That's your Christian feeding saying that's what atheists are like. And you just regurgitate. You don't actually know that that's the case because you haven't actually engaged with how an atheist thinks about morality. So that's just not true. I know for a fact when I left Christianity, living in sin was the furthest thing from my mind. I never once in my process of getting out there at the very end and becoming an atheist, never once was it, should I stay a Christian or should I go really live it up? That wasn't the reason. I never once contemplated that. It wasn't about running to some life. It was just waking up from the reality that this wasn't truth. I didn't know where to go from there. I was like cast out into no man's land, and I was like, well, what do I do now? And
let's put a bookmark on that specific point for the next conversation. I would like to discuss the four most common responses or accusations that I get from Christians for the reason why I deconverted. I've only heard these four, and that is one of them. The accusation that you just want to sin, and
Right.
I think that those really need to be discussed and responded to.
I think that's a great.
So let's think about doing that.
I think that's great. I think we should start the next episode with that. I think that's a good plan. Might as well. Hopefully we remember.
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah, I know. We'll do the best we can. But that sounds like a great place to pick up. So, normally these episodes are 30 minutes. Try to anyway. But this was great content. So what's the point of cutting it off?
We'll try to keep it to 30 next time.
We gave you 2 episodes worth.
Real strict.
2 episodes worth. Well, yeah, and it will be strict, but like we can literally pick up with the next word in the next episode. So we'll just try to keep going episode by episode to give you guys something to think about. But we gave them 2 episodes worth. I suppose we got 4.5 minutes then if we're going to capsulate the hour. I spoke a lot there at the end. Did you want to add anything to round this out?
Anything that I add is going to be a whole new conversation. So I should probably just put a nail in it.
All right. Okay, so then just letting you guys know, we are releasing these on Friday nights at 5 p.m. on a regular basis. So be sure to subscribe to Birds of a Feather, or you can subscribe to the Unraveler show, or to the Unraveler channel rather, and they'll be uploaded there as well. But I encourage you to subscribe to both, just in case we don't have them going to both places at sometimes for whatever reason. So be sure to do that. Feel free to message or email myself, and then message Elliot as well. I don't know if you want email in it.
So I'm not on Facebook currently. I've deactivated my account for a while. If anybody wants to contact me, which is probably unlikely, you can find my email address that I use for stuff like this in the book. It's either in the beginning or it's in the end.
Okay.
But it's kansas.atheist at Proton Mail.
Okay, and I'll put that in the notes as well. So.
And it might be kansas.atheist at Proton Mail. I don't know, but it's in the book.
I'll have you check that, and we'll talk, but we'll put it in the info so everybody can have it. So anyway, ways to contact us, we'll be there. So we do appreciate you being a part of this journey with us and listening in. So we'll just go for a while, and just see how things go. It's a fun show to just talk like this. Again, open up the invitation for you to come on and dialogue with us. And it doesn't just have to be, defending the existence of God. It may be something else, something more specific. You want to talk about morality and defend that, or explain that, you think atheists don't have it, or whatever, or defend faith as a thing itself. I don't know. So, these are all the kinds of topics, and they're all related. You might want to have a particular apologetic you want to discuss. That's fine. All of these are great things. We're open to discussing whatever with Christians, just to give you an opportunity to actually engage in dialogue with genuine atheists, not somebody you're getting the line from. So anyway, that's that. And grab our books. I think that's anything and everything I needed to say. Make sure you do all the things you do on social media. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that, share it. And we appreciate you guys being here. So that being said, I will see you guys next week on Birds of a Feather. And remember,